Well, committee, thank you. We're being very punctual today, and we do have Senator Sears with us, and he's going to run through S-188, a bill relating to regulating licensed small cannabis as name. And so Senator Sears, welcome to the Ag Committee, and you could maybe tell us a little bit about your bill and what you were thinking in regards to proposing it and how it should work.
Well, thank you, Senator Starr. It's a pleasure to be here in front of the Senate Agriculture Committee, and I'm glad that you're taking up S-188. It may not be the most important bill of the session, but I think it's an important one in terms of our efforts to move from a unorganized, illegal market into a legal market. And I met this fall with James Pepper and Bryn Hare from James is the head of the Cannabis Control Commission, and Bryn is the executive director, who's well known to all of us as former member of Ledge Council. And we got talking about this problem, and particularly with very small cultivators under 1,000 square feet of land. Those are generally people that are part of the black market. We feel need some incentive to come into the legal market. And by presenting them as farmers, we're hopeful that we will decrease the black market, increase the legal market. And by farming activity, you all know better than I what that results in, but it allows you to get around some of the other, but I don't believe you would get around town zoning issues, but you could get around Act 250 and other issues. So it's a real attempt to try to bring in some of those folks who have been growing small plots of marijuana for years and selling on the illegal market. And I'm pleased to have as co-sponsors of this, Senator Benning, Chittenden, and Polina. The bill has wide support. There may be some opposition from some quarters, but we're hopeful that it will get passed and move us in the right direction.
So you said all producers under 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty small plot of property, isn't it? It's right. Like your backyard.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it could be, but I think that's where you'll find a lot of people. And I don't have a study of this. I don't think anyone knows the numbers, but I think a lot of people grow very small plots of marijuana, and then they use it for their own purposes, and some sell it, and it's sold on the black market. And as you know, the legalization effort has been to bring these folks into the legal market. And so that's why we working in concert with the the Cannabis Control Commission, we came up with 1,000 square feet. I recognize it's very small, but it's an attempt. And the large processors would still have to go through all the regulatory hoops.
What kind of rules and regulations would follow if we could get these small cultivators to register? What would be involved in registering, Senator?
I believe they would apply to the Cannabis Control Commission, and the best person to talk to about this should be Bryn Hare. That could probably answer the details, but it would allow, in the small, would allow them to get around some of the other regulations that we put into the general bill. For example,
And
so if you
are
look
there,
on page 2 of the bill, there's a lot of stuff crossed out. That's got to bring them in.
how are we going to find these people, Senator? Are we going to have investors? That's a pretty small piece of property. So I'm wondering how we would control this, or because it's illegal to grow it, right?
Yeah, right. And well, it's illegal to grow a certain amount of them for personal use, which I believe is 2 mature plants. So if you're still doing something illegal, and it's our hope that most people would prefer to do things legally than illegally. And I think this would our hope is that this would encourage them to go the legal route rather than the illegal. There are certain consequences to selling drugs illegally, still marijuana. There's certain consequences to possessing large amounts of marijuana. So I think you would hopefully encourage people to come forward. There will still be some who will choose to not want government regulation, not want to participate. But the more we can reduce the black market, the better off for everyone, because you have a regulated product for sale, and you know what's in that product and all that other details. And that's really the basis behind the bill.
Chris?
Mr. Chair, that there's obviously a lot of risk involved in remaining in the illicit market. So the hope is, I think, that we make it easy enough to come in and bring you above board and presumably reduce a certain amount of stress and continue to give you some reliable income. Senator Sears, you and I, and it was something that I worked on because of sitting in finance, worked pretty hard to make sure these small cultivators were at least not having to remove land from current use, which is, same zone of what we're talking about here, a small fraction in terms of economic impact. But I argued that in the sense of wanting to help farms diversify, we didn't want to have some member of the family, I imagine the kitchen table where somebody says, listen, I'm going to try to do this, and then maybe the father or whatever says, well, I'm not taking this land out of current use. And so we did manage to carve that out. I noticed your bill repeals that, but I'm assuming, so first is a question, do I assume that repeal effectively comes back because we continue to, or we're more explicitly counting the whole practice as farming?
Yes. Yep.
And next, this was not
I
really,
believe that. I mean, any of those details really, I think Bryn Hare or Michelle Childs could answer better than I, but I believe that's the whole theory behind it. We're now saying that if it's a small plot in the back 40, that doesn't have to count, and it's farming, and so yes, the whole property would then come under.
And I think it's fair to say the quarrel around this, because the original Senate bill already had this, and it got changed in the long process on the other side. So I'm going to just suggest that the quarrel is not with us in that sense. I think I'll speak for myself. I like this idea. It is farming. So why shouldn't that be reflected in the law? But we ran into quite a buzzsaw, and this, in fact, was a particular source of conflict when we got down to conference committee, as you well recall. And I'm wondering, we should act regardless based on what we think is right. But do you have any sense that there's a shifting of opinions on the other side, which obviously we'll have to enact a bill if we advance it? I'm just curious in terms of our
business. There is.
Today.
I think now that we've established that we're going to be going retail and that we're going to have a regulated market, I think there is a shifting and a better understanding of the value of this. And our concern was, as you know, from the beginning, was how do we move from an illicit or illegal market into a legalized market where we regulate, and I think important for health reasons and other reasons, to regulate this market. So this is just an inducement to bring those small groups in, and not all of them will. We know that, but as time goes on, like you just said, around the kitchen table, maybe there's an incentive now to do it legally instead of having the son growing this out in the back 40 that dad's aware of, but he kind of doesn't like it.
And
Thank you.
With the larger retail salespeople, is there anything that would require them to buy this product from the producer? Or?
Our guess on, again, Bryn or Michelle would have better knowledge than I, but our assumptions are that we're going to have a supply and demand situation once we go retail, and where the supply is going to be an issue. And so everywhere that we can get regulated cannabis products will help us. I think that some of the large cultivators will run into some issues that we're not anticipating, particularly in the beginning.
And what about a small producer that falls into this category? Are they going to be able to sell or not? Do you know, Senator?
I don't know what, none of us really know. This is all new to all of us, and all we can do is follow other states. Senator Pearson, I think, may know more than I do.
Chris or Brian? Brian, you want to jump in?
So welcome, Senator Sears. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
I know that you mentioned that you don't have any firm numbers in terms of knowing how many people are growing at that 1,000 square foot threshold, but I'm kind of curious how you came to sponsor the bill. Did someone come to you and say, hey, here's kind of a situation that we could address with a piece of legislation, or was it just something you thought of?
No, it was, I met this past fall with James Pepper, the chair of the Cannabis Control Commission, and Bryn Hare, the executive director. And during our meeting, we discussed various bills, and there was actually 3 of them. One has to do with the medical program that's in health and welfare. One has to do with miscellaneous items that's in Senate Judiciary, and the other bill is the small farming bill that is in your committee. So it was really I would love to take credit for all these great ideas, but it's really the Cannabis Control Commission, after having meetings around the state, talking with people in other states and so forth, came up with the ideas that are the genesis of 3 bills.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And Chris, did you have a question or a comment?
I think, what was the question? Oh, the farm, maybe you were, I think, asking Mr. Chair about direct on farm sales. And in my conversation with the Cannabis Control Board, that there's nothing that prevents a farmer from also getting that license.
Oh.
But obviously, this is not something like cheese or meat, even that you leave in a cooler with a cash box at the side of the road, right? That there's think of it more like the distillery on farm making some whiskey or rye. It's a little more sophisticated than a vegetable stand, but there is nothing that, and because I asked this question directly to the chair, and that was his response, because it is an intriguing idea, and as we talk about in this committee all the time, we want the profit to be if it's going to be concentrated anywhere, it ought to be on the farm.
Yeah.
And there is that opportunity. How it all shakes out and who decides to do that, I don't know. But this little piece that Senator Sears is offering us is part of, I think, that broader strategy.
Well, we're having that problem with those organic farms. This would be a good alternative. But if you had a few of these scattered around the state, it might make a difference on the viability of that small farm and keep it running. Any other questions for Senator Sears from the committee? And Senator Sears, Anthony.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I think this is an intriguing idea as well. And I think I would urge this committee to bring in Mr. Peppers or Bryn Hare or someone to talk with us more about it, because I think we should make sure that we can have these questions answered and move forward on it.
Yeah. Senator Sears, did you have anything else for us?
No, I really appreciate the committee taking it up, and I echo Senator Polina that I'm hopeful that we'll get a bill, at least out of the Senate, that the House will be concurring with it, and that
I think Senator Sears is froze.
Yep.
But anyhow, Senator Sears, thank you for your time this morning, and we'll have Linda maybe contact somebody that works with you to get names, and we'll get Bren in and find out more about this and hopefully move it forward.
there have been several groups that have worked, and the names escape me right now, but have worked with us. I know Senator Pearson was also with us on it. We had several meetings with them last summer, who are working in concert. I think Laura Supan, is that her name? Would be a good person. Subin, yes, would be a good person to talk to.
And would Bren have those names?
I would
Senator
think
Sears?
so, yeah. Yeah.
So we can have Linda contact Bren and try to get the names of the folks, and we'll advertise it for a hearing and see if they come forward.
Great.
Yeah, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And have a good day. We'll see you this
You
afternoon.
too. We'll see you at 1.
Yeah. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
So committee, in regards to the bill, would you all be in agreement we'll have Linda get contact these other folks and have them in?
Yep.
Are you with us, Linda?
Yes. Got it.
Yeah. Council, Bren over in Legislative Council, she may have some of those names.
She's now the chair, I believe, of the committee. I don't know the name of it. Do you know it? Chris?
She's the director under the Cannabis Control Board.
Oh, yeah.
She got poached.
Well, probably getting more money too. Well, she'd be good at it, that's for sure. So we'll, we'll re-put this on the schedule probably for next week to try to move it forward in a positive way. So is that's agreeable, I believe, with the committee? Yep. Yeah, so, so we'll plan on that, and our next crew is the and coming in at 10:30. So, unless there's something else that someone wants to bring up, right, we'll take a break until say 10:25. And
Okey-doke.
then we'll come back on. We'll take a 20-minute break. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.